Welcome to A Beer with Brad, Episode 8. Tonight I'm going to answer your questions, but first the beer. Tonight I'm drinking a Roundabout Stout from Divots Brewing in Norfolk, Nebraska. I did not go to Norfolk and get this. I stopped up here at my local bottle shop, The Casual Pint, right up the street from my house. Always have a great selection there, great people. So I stopped in there, grabbed this Divots Roundabout Stout, and that's what I'm enjoying tonight. Divots is in Norfolk, Nebraska. I have not been there yet. I've tried to go twice. I was up in Norfolk doing a photo shoot, and I figured I'd stop at Divots afterwards and get a couple beers to take home and check out the brewery while I was there. And I got there and it was not open yet. I guess I didn't really plan that well. I just figured I'm in Norfolk. I'll swing by when I'm done and see if they're open, and they weren't. So the next time I did plan to make sure that I was there on the right day at the right time, and had another photo shoot. I had a photo shoot in Columbus and in Norfolk. And right when I was getting ready to leave, it started dumping snow. And it snowed the whole way out to Columbus. It snowed the whole way up to Norfolk. And I got done, and I just didn't feel like it was a good time to stop there. I felt like I should just get on the road and get back home. So third time's the charm. Next time I'm in Norfolk, I will definitely stop by and check out Divots. Divots Roundabout Stout. My shirt is for the Nebraska Craft Brewers Guild, and this is Drink Local Nebraska Month. So last year I did a thing where every single day I tried a different Nebraska beer, and I put pictures of them on the Nebraska Craft Beer Facebook page. This year I'm not doing that. I'm still drinking Nebraska beers. Friday we had a work function, and they had a couple non-craft, non-local, not Nebraska beers. And then today when I stopped to pick this up, there was also a new Toppling Goliath beer that I tried. So trying a few different things, but for the most part I always just drink Nebraska beers or drink beers that are local to the area I'm in. So if I'm on a photography trip out west, I try to find local beers. So it's the beginning of October, so the fall color in Nebraska is really getting started. A little piece of advice that if you see some fall color you think should be photographed, stop and photograph it. Then I saw a scene last week and I thought, yeah, that's perfect. It's looking so good right now, and I'll get to it Monday. It was right by my work, so I figured I'd just get to it Monday, and the color's already fading. The color last week was so much better. The red in the sumac was already starting to turn like a muted red purple color. So in fall, especially around here, the time to shoot something is when you see it. So we should be just getting going, though. There should be another about 20 to 25 days, I would say, of good fall color around here. Maybe even a little longer if we don't get any real cold snaps. The highs are in the 70s right now. The lows are getting down into the low to mid 40s. Some days it's not even getting in the 40s. So if we keep having these nice warm afternoons and cool nights, we should have some great fall color this year. So really looking forward to it. I'm not going on a photography trip out west, so I'm hoping that there's some good fall color here, and I'm hoping I can make the time to get out and get some nice photos of it. I was kind of disappointed I'm not going on a fall photography trip, but there was just so much going on this year. I did 2 family vacations that were a week long each. I had a long weekend up in the Badlands, and so it just didn't feel like it was a good fall to be running off for another week. So next year, though, I'm definitely going to block out some time and get out and do some more fall photography. That said, the Badlands, that video, episode 2 from my Badlands trip, I put episode 1 out like months ago and then never got around to episode 2. Episode 2 is done. It's on the computer. It does need a little bit of fine tuning, maybe a little music added in, but for the most part the whole timeline, the story's put together. So just a little fine tuning, get that uploaded. So this video, The Beer with Brad, is going to come out on Thursday. Today's Tuesday, so 2 days from now this video will go out, and then the following Thursday, today's the 5th, 6th, 7th. So 7th this video will come out, and then a week later the 14th, I hope I'm doing my days right, the Badlands episode 2, which is pretty cool. I'm looking forward to that one coming out. I really wish I would have got these videos out sooner for the Badlands, but it's just been such a busy year. Never got around to them. Alright, enough rambling on about random things. Let's get to your questions. So I put out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram a call for questions. Submit questions if you want about photography or beer. And the questions, I got a lot of variety, good stuff. I would say about 60% or so are photography questions, 40% are beer questions. It was interesting that I put them out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and the questions came in from Facebook and Twitter, and not a single question on Instagram, which I thought was kind of strange. But it's kind of to me that's a strange platform, and I know it's meant for photography, but it's not really what it is a lot of times. So who knows? But I got plenty of questions from the other two, and I got a couple others asked texts and emails. So let's get started on your questions. So the first question came in from Jeff on Twitter, and he asked how I balance my family obligations when on a vacation with my photography. And it's pretty simple. It's the family comes first, and if there's time for photography afterwards, that's pretty much what I do. Like when I went on the Badlands trip, that was with another photographer, so that was pretty much a dedicated photography vacation. And then went to Michigan twice this year, and I took a few photos up there, but really not many. Not really any landscape pictures. There was a couple lighthouse pictures, a picture of a boat, and then some storm pictures. But the storm pictures were just my brother-in-law and I having a couple beers on the porch in the evening after we got the kids to bed, and as the storms were coming in, and just took some. So there was never really any intentional landscape photos except for the couple of the lighthouse. And we were there for 2 weeks, a week in May and a week in August, and there was so much stuff going on with the family that I really didn't get any photos. So that's okay. We still had a lot of fun, and there's definitely some potential, and maybe sometime go back to Michigan for a dedicated photography trip. We were on the southern end of the state, southern end of Lake Michigan, and I just have heard so many great stories. If you go up northern Michigan, there's so many great photography opportunities. So sometime it'll be a great place to visit. The thing with the photography too is a lot of times when I'm on these dedicated photography trips, you're just kind of immersed in photography, and you really start thinking about your photos and stuff. And when you're on a family trip, you're almost just rushing, like, all right, the kids are asleep, or the family's doing something else. I have a half hour, or I have an hour. I'm going to run out and take this picture. And sometimes everything just feels so rushed that you're just trying to take a picture just to get a picture, and you're not really going through the process. So it's tough. And maybe as the kids, they're young right now, so maybe as they get older it'll be a little bit easier. But for right now, it's all hands on deck with the kids. The second question comes with the Omaha, Nebraska Fire and Police Photography on Twitter, and they want to know what were some things I wish I would have known when I first got into photography with a digital camera. And I guess for me, I was using a film camera for so many years, and a lot of the things transferred over from film to the digital. And so running the camera, there's a lot of things the same. There's a few more things. There was a very complex menu on the digital camera, and sometimes it took a little bit to work through and find things I was looking for and to get some of the settings I wanted right. Maybe I wish I would have known a little bit more about the menu system and how to find things in there, but overall running the camera was pretty much the same. Where I really struggled was on the computer end of it. Once I got the photos off the camera on the computer, there was a lot of things I wish I would have known, a lot of things I think I could have done better. The first thing I didn't realize was I never shot in a RAW mode, and I just downloaded the JPEG files off my camera onto the computer and started editing those files and saved them. And so I don't have the originals of the first year or two. I don't have any of the original files. I just have the edited JPEGs, and I wish I could go back and change some of that. Not that there was anything really interesting from those first couple years. There might have been a few skylines or something like that. But there was some just random stuff around town, buildings and whatnot that aren't here anymore. So I wish I would have had some of those files. But so most of all, the computer was my struggle. The computer is still kind of what I figured to be my struggle. So the third question is also from the Omaha, Nebraska Fire and Police Photography account on Twitter. And they want to know some tips for finding their strong points in photography. And I guess what I'd say to that is get out and find what you really enjoy to photograph. Photography is, for some people it's a career, some people it's a hobby, some people it's a passion, but no matter how you look at it, it's an art. And art needs to be something that you really enjoy. You got to be creative. You got to enjoy what you do. So, I would say if you're into police and fire photography, get out there and try to find really compelling scenes that tell a story. Dynamic lighting, with the fire trucks and the police cars and ambulances, you're automatically going to have that dynamic lighting with all the red and blues and spotlights, and a lot of times at night. But just if that's what you love to do, get out there and just practice and find scenes that look really neat, and then also find role models. I guarantee you, if you get on the internet, you can find other police and fire photographers, and find one that you really enjoy, or a couple that you really enjoy, and just kind of get to know their work. I'm not saying go out and copy what they do, but look for techniques that they use, and just try to use some of those same techniques in your work. I have all kinds of role models back here, everything from the old classic Ansel Adams to, I got this book that has Omaha Council Bluffs photos from their side-by-side, old photos from 100 years ago, new photos. Well, the new photos are taken by Tom Kessler, and if you're not familiar with Tom Kessler, he's probably one of the premier architectural photographers in the world. He happens to live right here in Omaha. Actually, he goes to the same church that Dana and I used to, where we got married. So he does phenomenal work. He has a website. There's some beautiful photography on there. So, I've always thought of him as a role model. Actually, when I got this book, he signed it. He did a lecture at the Durham Museum, so kind of listened to his thoughts behind the photography, and just learned a lot, even from that hour session, whatever it was. Just kind of learned, his thought process to some of these things, and, kind of his attitude. And there's, down there, it's too big to be up here, but there's a Thomas Mangelson book. I love Thomas Mangelson. I enjoy the same things, and I kind of look at, he has a picture of a moose that is just beautifully lit. The scene, the shrubbery in the foreground is bright red. Just the perfect mountain scene. I love it. And a lot of people, and I'm guilty of it too, I go out and I see a deer, and what I do, I frame up the deer right in the middle of my scene. I focus on the deer, and I don't show the whole scene. And so that's one of those things, as someone I look up to, I kind of see, how did he make that picture? Why do I love that picture? And it's all the other things that went to it besides the moose. So just find role models that you like. Don't get on photography pages on social media and just follow them because they're a photography page. Get on there and specifically hone in on photography you like, and try to study their techniques and see what they do and what you can apply to your photos. So there's a lot of inspiration out there. You just got to find it. The next question comes from LVS on Twitter, and they want to know what the best camera is for night skies and wildlife. And I would say that the camera is not what you should worry about. The lens is probably way more important for both wildlife and night skies. Wildlife, you need a lot of long lenses, just because the animals most of the time are either really small or far away, or both. Especially if you're on the mountains, you're not supposed to be within 100 yards of a bear or a moose. And so you're automatically going to have little animals, even with the big lens. So the lens is more important. You want to bring that in as close as you can to you. And then a lot of times with wildlife, especially if you're doing birds, you need something that has a decent speed to it, something that has, you get down into a lower f-stop, like an f4 or an f2.8. There's a lot of new zoom lenses on the market that are f5.6, f8, but you really need to get slower. Even with the new cameras, the technology is so awesome now, but a fast lens is still something great to have. As far as the night sky stuff, also fast lens. They make a lot of, you can probably get away with an f4 lens, but an f2.8 or even something even faster would be something to look into. And then just to know, I don't know how much you know about the night sky photography, but there's a lot of people that do that have tracking equipment. So their tripod it's the same thing as a telescope, where it actually is a computerized tripod mount or a head that tracks with the stars as the Earth's moving. Your tripod or your camera or your telescope is moving at the exact same speed, so that if you're focused on Jupiter, your camera's moving with Jupiter. Gives you a lot more time to get that exposure. Right now, I would say 15 seconds is about as slow as you can go, probably even less. If you're shooting a full moon on the horizon, 15 seconds is way too long. You need to get way faster than that. But if you're trying to shoot the stars, if you shoot a 15-second picture, you're going to start to see it move. If you shoot a 1-minute picture, you're going to see a pretty good trail. A lot of those pictures where you see the star trails where the stars are making complete circles, a lot of those are only an hour long. So there's a lot of movement in the sky. The Earth is really flying, so you need fast lenses, and a camera would be second to the lens. As far as a camera, any of the new Canon, Nikon, Sony, Fuji, any of those new cameras are going to be just fine. Not even the high-end ones, but even like the more mid-level, entry-level ones are so good now that any of those would be fine. I don't think you'll get into some people that will say that this brand is better than this brand, but all the big brands, they're doing so good, so don't worry about that. Find a lens that works for you. All right, question 5 is from Eric W, because there's 2 different Erics that ask questions on Facebook. And Eric wants to know how much is done in the camera and how much of the work is done in the computer. And I don't know how to say, it's not like 50-50 or 60-40, but basically I try to get the scene composed exactly how I want it in the camera, and then I use the camera to create or to collect as much data as possible, and then in Photoshop I fine-tune the photo by using all the data that I collected. It's not too much different than a negative. The negative in a camera or in a film camera, it captured a lot of data, or a lot of whatever you want, resolution back then. And when you'd put a piece of film in your enlarger, and then you would put a test strip down, and you would expose in 2 or 5 second increments on your sheet of paper, and you would really fine tune in that exposure. And there's a lot of things that could be done to manipulate the photos in the darker back in the day, and it's totally different, and there's so much more power to do that. It's not completely different than what you did in the darkroom back in the day. So just try to get it the way I want, close to how I want it in the camera, and then in the computer I'll make fine-tune adjustments. I wish I could do it all in the camera. I'd much rather be out taking pictures and not sitting at a desk messing with Photoshop. To me, photography is the fun of getting out and seeing things and exploring. So that's the way I wish it was, but that's not the way it is. Eric W also asked the second question about what was the best beer I've ever had and what was the worst beer I ever had. And I could not tell you the best. There's so many good ones out there. There's so many different styles and so many different ingredients that just make each beer so different and unique. And I don't know. There's everything from really hazy IPAs that are really popular right now to some fantastic bourbon barrel aged beers. I had one from Cross Strain not too long ago that was in a Buffalo. It was a Buffalo Trace barrel. It was actually made for timber and rail car. It was Imperial Stout aged in these special barrels that the restaurant had picked out, and then they had a little bit of it at the brewery. It was fantastic. It was a great beer. So there's just so many great ones. I couldn't tell you the best one I ever had. It's impossible. And it probably has changed over the years too. Something I liked might be different now than it was back then. That said, the worst beer I ever had, hands down, easy answer, Sam Adams Cherry Wheat. I like Sam Adams beers, but that cherry wheat is disgusting. It tastes like a flat beer with rotten cherries in there. And first of all, I should be fully honest, I'm not a big fan of cherry anything. I don't eat, I don't drink cherry pop, and I don't like cherry in most items. I'm just not a cherry. A fresh, raw cherry off the tree, delicious, but cherry in anything as an ingredient is not my thing. And so, I don't know. And to be fair, I haven't tried Sam Adams Cherry Wheat in 20 years either, so it still just, anytime anyone asks the beer I hate, and that's always my go-to answer because it was so disgusting the first and only time I ever tried it. Question number 7 comes from Susan on Facebook, and it says, what is the alcohol percentage of the new Sam Adams Utopias beer? Which is funny because I just said that Sam Adams was the worst beer I ever had. Not the regular Sam Adams, but the cherry wheat. And I looked it up, and it is 28%, which is 11% higher than any beer I ever had. Brickway in Omaha makes, they call it the Epic Blackout Stout. It's a great beer. They have a barrel aged version, and that is, depending on the year, 17 or 18%. And so the Utopias, this year was 17%, that's why I said 11. So Utopias is 28, but the Utopias is also $240 a bottle. There was a can of Brickway Epic Blackout at the Casual Pint today for $9 for a can, which in my opinion is still steep. It's a great beer and it's probably worth it, but $240 a bottle, I will not be trying that beer. It also said that there was like 2,000 pounds of cherries in it or something, so a Sam Adams beer with 2,000 pounds of cherries, probably going to stay away from it, but who knows, if I was at a bottle share and there was a little sample there, yeah, I might try it. So Eric A on Twitter asked what was my favorite brewery outside Nebraska, or my favorite breweries outside Nebraska. So for this I made a list because it's not easy, there's a lot of them. For those of you who don't know, that when I was in Michigan a couple months ago now, I visited my 100th craft brewery, and it's actually more like 102 or 103, but since I've been keeping track, back in 2010, I think it was 2011, it's my 100th craft brewery. So without even thinking about my all-time favorite is Colorado Boy in Ridgway, Colorado. And I think that it's just not the brewery or the people or the beer. That one was the whole scene, the whole area, the mountains, the week. I was on a photography trip. I was in the San Juan Mountains. We're having an amazing time, beautiful fall color. Had a great day out in the mountains. And coming out in this tiny little mountain town, and there's a brewery there. They had awesome food. The beers were good, and it was just like a cool, relaxing little place after an awesome day. And so I think just the whole experience of being out there, enjoying the day, and then finishing it off at the Colorado Boy Brewery just kind of made it all for what I'm saying is my favorite brewery. I almost actually wore the Colorado Boy Brewing shirt tonight, but I think I got rid of it because I wore it so much that it was starting to look a little rough. So maybe it's time to go back to Colorado Boy. On that photography trip, it was a 10-day photography trip. Went to 9 different breweries. The only reason we didn't go to a 10th brewery is because we ran out, so we went to Colorado Boy twice that weekend. So just a cool little place. If you haven't been to that Ridgway, Telluride, Ouray area, it's awesome. I mean, it's one of my favorite places to go photograph, especially this time. I mean, I literally wish I was there right now. This week is when I should be out there taking pictures, seeing these breweries. So Ouray also has a brewery, Ouray Brewing. The cool thing about that is at the bar, instead of having bar stools, they have swings that hang from the ceiling, so you're actually sitting in like a playground swing while you're having your beer, eating your dinner. Pretty cool place. Telluride has a couple breweries. So I made a list of other breweries that are not in Nebraska that I liked. So Cinderblock in Kansas City, North Kansas City, they had it's a cool, low-key place, had some really good beers. Barntown in Des Moines, if you're heading over to Des Moines, which is 2 hours east of here, Barntown had a really good beer and a lot of good food. Nice patio to eat on. Washington, D.C., Right Proper Brewing. My brother-in-law Ken showed me this place. It's a really cool, a neighborhood place. I mean, you literally go down the street and it's like house, industrial building with a brewery in it. Just a cool laid-back place. They have some live music, and they have a piano in the bathroom. And it is the weirdest looking thing when you first walk in and you just kind of stop and you stare, but they actually roll the piano out of the bathroom into the brewery. And when they have bands, the bands play it, and then when they're done, the band's done, they send the piano right back in the bathroom. So cool place, good beer. Sometimes my brother-in-law even has kegs of it at his house when I go out there. So next would be Melvin Brewing Company. Has good beer, but their tap room in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, is a Thai restaurant. Really awesome food. So you get some awesome pad thai after a day out hiking around Grand Teton National Park. You go back, get some pad thai and some really good beers. That's a cool place. It's packed. Also, the Snake River Brewery in Jackson Hole is also really good. Cool vibe, cool place. And again, I think that, to me, those are kind of like the ones in Ouray and Ridgeway and Telluride. Is like you're out in this awesome scene all day long, seeing so many cool things, and then at the end of the day you photograph sunset and you head back to town and you hit up one of these cool places, you relax, have a beer, eat dinner. It's the whole day that makes it awesome. Next, Humble Sea in Santa Cruz was really cool. Totally different vibe. It's like a beach vibe, cool little place, palm trees, outdoor area, really neat. The biggest brewery that I've ever been to that was still craft brewery that I thought was awesome was Deschutes in Bend, Oregon. It's just something totally different in scale than all these little breweries I go to, but they still had like that, like small independent vibe to them. So a lot of good stuff. Cool to see how things are done on a big scale. They still do things like their Jubile Ale, where they hire a local artist every year to make the label for the Jubile Ale, which should be coming out here in the next month or so. And then, like I said, I just visited Michigan and went to my 100th brewery, which was Waypost. So, and for those of you that are wondering how I keep track of these, yes, I do have a spreadsheet with all 100 breweries on them. So, spreadsheet people like that. I got two more that came from Tom, and the first one says, how do you achieve the best focus with a cell phone camera? And so most cell phone cameras, when you're looking at it, you can actually touch the screen to where you want to focus. You'll put a box there, and that's where it's focusing. And that box will probably stay there for 3 to 5 seconds before it go back to its autofocus. So that's the easiest way to do it, is just line up. If you're taking someone's face, hit the screen, and actually change the exposure to properly expose the face too, besides just focus on it. That said, at work I get not as much as I used to, but I used to always get emails from people asking, can you fix this photo? Can you clean this photo up? Can you sharpen this photo? And a lot of times they always said it was blurry or soft. They didn't think it was in focus. And a lot of times when I actually got in there and looked at the photo, the lens was dirty. Our cell phones are in our pockets, and they have these 2 or 1 or now 3, I guess, tiny little lenses. So if you go to pull it in your pocket and you get a little oil on there from the thing, that oil, that streak on the lens is going to look just like it's out of focus. So what I always tell people, just take it, wipe it off, keep a little lens cloth with you. But and it's not even just people at work. The World Herald, they had a reporter. They used one of the reporter's pictures in a news article. It was a pretty famous person in the photo, and it was totally smudged, and I could just tell instantly that it was a fingerprint. So, wipe off your photos, or wipe off your phones before you take the picture. It's always a good idea. And the last question of the day is a beer question, and it says, do you have a favorite beer for each season? And not necessarily. I pretty much like all the beers all the time, but I also don't feel like the beers are as seasonal as they used to be. Now it's just like not every brewery, but a lot of breweries are just really trying to put out new beer all the time, new flavors, new combinations, new collaborations. So it used to be a little more regimented, where you always had the Oktoberfest was here at the beginning of September, and then your winter warmer would be around Thanksgiving, and then you go into around the seasons. But now I just feel like they're all the breweries, a lot of the, especially the smaller ones that are like real, artistic, and like just try to really come up with cool, new, unique creations. They're just always put out new stuff, so the seasonal vibe isn't there. There's people that will say that you should have your big heavy stouts in the wintertime because they're filling and warm and warm you up, and I just like them anytime because I really like the flavor of them. It's kind of like a dessert. You only eat warm cookies that are Christmas time, warm Christmas cookies. So I don't really have a beer for each season. I do like the Oktoberfest. It's kind of more of like a seasonal, with the Oktoberfest parties. It's just kind of a fun beer that it comes out that. And there will be some winter, the winter warmers like the Jewel Ale I mentioned that'll come out pretty soon. That I always enjoy looking for those. There are a few Christmas beers that come out. Not always the biggest fan of some of those. Some of them are just kind of sweet and have some cinnamon stuff in them, and like I said, I usually like, in the dark beers, I would like having the earthy flavors of them, and then the IPAs, I really like the fresh hopped flavors. So, and the brown ales, porters, all those, I like the earthy flavors. So that's kind of my go-to. Well, I guess that wasn't the last question. I forgot one more. Nathan sent one in kind of at the last minute asking about if I've looked into NFTs. And if you don't follow NFTs or photography right now, the NFT thing is kind of a hot button issue or a hot topic. And I have looked into them enough to know that I'm not interested in them. So NFT stands for non-fungible token, which for those of you that aren't really familiar with it, it's kind of like a Bitcoin type situation. It's a blockchain technology. Basically, artists are creating, not just photographers, but artists are creating original works, one of one, and they're using blockchain technology to prove that is literally the only one of that item out there. And then these collectors are buying these digital artworks, and some of them are just collecting them. Some of the artists give them a print of the digital image. Some of them are having these galleries where they're having slideshows, and I don't know, it's not me. There's some artists that are totally opposed to it because it's horrible for the environment. One NFT uses, I don't remember what it was, it's some ridiculous amount of energy, more than it does to print, because they have to use these supercomputers to do the blockchain technology. There's also a lot of speculation out there that the people that are collecting the NFTs are the people that are also invested heavily in the NFTs. So, they'll spend $1 million to invest buying these digital artworks, but yet they have $300 million invested into them. So if they can convince people to start selling this, that boosts their stock price. So, spend $1 million to make a few extra million is kind of what people are thinking they're doing. I've also seen some posts in the last few days that the market is flooded with NFTs, so the prices are dropping. And it's not me. I've said it before, but to me, a finished piece of photography is a nice big print on the wall. I love printing my stuff big. I don't like looking at it on the computer. I hate looking at it on my phone. I like looking at my photography as big prints on the wall. Well, thanks for submitting questions, everyone. It was a lot of fun. I hope I didn't miss any. I'm pretty sure I got through them all. So if not, I've talked long enough, so we'll have to save your question for the next time. But it was a lot of fun. I would hope to do this again before too long. If you have questions, feel free to send them along at any time, and either if you want to answer sooner, I can answer it sooner, but otherwise just tell me to save it for the next question and answer beer with Brad. So I'm going to finish off this Divots Roundabout Stout, edit a video, and enjoy the rest of my evening. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next month.